and welcome. This is a time for a round of applause. And not for me, it's for you. We are finally here in presence. I'm Valdis Melderis, and I'm really happy to see you here, and also on our platform. Prime Minister of the Republic of Latvia, Krišjānis Kariņš. Executive Vice President of European Commission, Valdis Dombrovskis. Then Deputy Secretary General-elect of ITU, Tomas Lamanauskas. Acting Secretary General of Nordic Council of Ministers, Jonas Svendal. Ladies, gentlemen, friends, colleagues, and all those who we already know, maybe from online sessions. 5G Techritory has been phygital all the time, more or less, and we're really happy that some of you could finally make it to Riga. Please raise your hands if you're first time here and you know 5G Techritory just online so far. Here we are, and you're very welcome. Round of applause to you. So before we begin, we will have some opening speeches, and then let's get to work. So now please welcome the Prime Minister of the Republic of Latvia, Krišjānis Kariņš.
Valdis, thank you very much. Valdi, hello, greetings. It's a pleasure to be once again at the 5G Techritory. This is, I think, number 5. When I became Prime Minister, it was number 2. So that tells you a little bit about how long I've been here. And we're in the process of forming the next government, so maybe I'll be around for a little while longer. 5G, I used to not really understand what it was. I'll admit that. Everyone in this room is very different from me. You're all very clever. I was not so clever, and maybe I'm not today. But philosophically, you know, what is the present? The theme here is the future. So, okay, I don't know anything about the future, so maybe I know something about the present. What is the present, right? And you read philosophers and writers that say they're fleeting moments, and you can't really grasp it. And now, put yourself on the front line of the warfare in Ukraine. You're a frontline soldier, a Ukrainian soldier. And are you philosophizing about the present, or do you actually want to know what the hell is going on behind the enemy lines? And the interesting thing that these technologies can give us, right? Without technologies, the present is only what I physically see in this room and what you see. So you see some guy standing up here with gray hair, and I see a bunch of clever people, many of them with glasses like myself. That's pretty much all that we see. But with the help of technology, I mean, with existing technologies, we can observe things through remote cameras and drones, et cetera, et cetera. But there's always that lag time. And what the 5G technology gives us is instantaneous expansion of the now beyond what we can actually see with our eyes on a physical distance. Together with virtual reality and augmented reality, it can help someone who's actually doing a task to do that task quicker and better. In Latvia, we have a test bed at our main military training facility that I had the pleasure of visiting about a month ago, where I was given augmented and then virtual reality glasses. My head was spinning a little bit. I'm not a gamer, so it was a little new experience for me. But with one, I was taught how to do repairs to an army vehicle, virtually moving around and changing tires. It was changing tires. It was easy work because I actually didn't have to do any lifting. And then there was the real truck with augmented reality, which reminded me what I had learned, to take this, yes, no, not that wrench, this wrench, and to perform the duties. And what we have And it's a I don't know, people would call it an inflection point or a revolutionary point, a changing point in time, where these technologies, which are still being developed, will give commanders and soldiers in the field real-time information which goes beyond their field of vision, which can help to save lives and to thwart an enemy's attack. This is what we're very interested in Latvia, in developing the military technologies with 5G. We have in medicine, right? In medical operations, the doctor has to be there to perform, say, a manipulation. A lot of manipulations are now through various machines. But with these technologies, the doctor that is actually doing, the surgeon, the very specialized surgeon doing the manipulations could, in fact, be located someplace else, theoretically around the globe. I mean, if all the networks are up and running, which greatly expands the effective use of limited resources. So there are only so many surgeons that can do so many clever things, and rather than having that surgeon fly around the world, you could have that surgeon performing the operation from one place throughout the world. And the limitations are basically endless. They don't really end. And I'm reading now 6G. If 5G is real time, what is 6G ahead of time? I really don't know that. But our country, Latvia, is in the process of an economic transformation. So we're working, and we'll do everything, also in the next government, to increase the proportion of companies working in the high-tech export sector. So we see that throughout all the crises, COVID and now the energy and all of these difficulties, as various parts of the economy have had difficulties, the tourism industry, this industry, that industry, the high-tech exports have been steadily growing. And we have a lot of expertise in our country. We're it's a compact society, less than 2 million, a very vibrant society. And as we'll be putting more money into research, into our universities, as we'll be putting more money into education, as we'll be investing more money also into our armed forces and others, the possibilities of growth in this area are tremendous. And the possibilities for cooperation, we also understand that 5G is not something that you do alone. This is a completely, by necessity, a collaborative effort. In Latvia, we have companies building and exporting 5G hardware. And of course, we have a myriad of companies that are working on the software aspect of it. So what we have here is a full cycle. And I came here, I'm actually going to run off. I have to head a little thing called a government meeting right now. But what I want to say is that the government understands how important this sector is, and we will continue to invest and to strengthen it. And I welcome all of you with open arms and great joy, and wish you all the best. Do clever things. Help yourself, help your country, no matter where you're from, and help our societies continue to advance. And from the government side, in Latvia, we will continue to support you in all ways that we can. All the best to you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Thank you. When I was greeting Mr. Dombrovskis, everyone was looking around and saying, are you sure? Yes, that will happen a lot today, because this, like I said, is phygital event, which means physical and digital. And now please welcome Executive Vice President of European Commission, Valdis Dombrovskis, online.
Honorable Mr. Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to participate once again in 5G Techritory. This important event brings together over 2,500 participants to discuss the impact and opportunities presented by the latest generation of mobile communications technologies and their impact on the future life. Support for mobile network infrastructure has never been more important from security, economic, and social perspective. The countries that are able to provide their inhabitants with the latest network infrastructure will also be ones who will thrive, the ones who stay competitive and the ones who continue innovating. Leading 5G nations and regions will also bring socio-economic benefits on the global level. Today, I would like to touch upon three aspects. First, how to enshrine our European values in the technologies of the future, and why we need strong institutions and active governments to make this happen. Second, why accessibility is key for a state to become a true 5G nation. And third, I would like to make the case that digital resilience is today a matter of vital national security. 5G is not only a mobile network. It represents a new manner of thinking in a new era of connectivity. This new era of connectivity has repercussions not only on internet speed, but on the economy as a whole. It will create new intelligent systems. It can facilitate new green processes, and it can help to develop new advanced manufacturing models. However, it is important that our values underpin this technological leap. We want to see the development of human-centric technologies. So, koks notika?
We're on air. We can see you. Yeah. Mr. Dombrovskis, if you can hear us, we can see you and hear you clearly.
Yes, I hear you, but something happened with my screen, so I'm not sure if you hear me.
Yes, we do. We do. Please proceed. Yes?
Sorry, do you hear me?
Yes, we do. If you can hear us, we can see you and hear you.
Yes, I hear you. I'm not sure if you hear me.
We do. Yes. Please go on.
Okay, something happened with my stream, but I hope that you are hearing me. If not, tell so, yeah?
Everything is fine.
So, as I said, it's essential that our values underpin this technological leap. So we want to see development of human-centric technologies. In this respect, cooperation with like-minded partners who share our values is of utmost importance. This week, I will travel to the United States for the third EU-US Trade and Technology Council. We are currently enhancing our cooperation in technology and standards development, digital regulation, connectivity investments, and the security aspects of advanced technologies. To give just a few examples, we are working to deliver a roadmap on measurement and evaluation tools for trustworthy artificial intelligence and risk management. We have agreed to coordinate legislative initiatives on semiconductors. We want our respective CHIPS Acts to be implemented on a non-discriminatory manner. And we wish to achieve greater transparency in our respective subsidies programs to prevent any potential trade irritants from arising. The EU and US are also working to establish cooperation in third countries on secure and resilient digital connectivity. The first results of this work will be announced in the upcoming Trade and Technology Council. In parallel, the EU is pursuing digital partnerships with trusted partners in Indo-Pacific, such as Singapore, Japan, and Korea. At the World Trade Organization, we continue to push for updated global rules for e-commerce. Our ambition is to ensure seamless data flows for businesses. We want to improve market access and regulatory predictability while remaining committed to consumer protection and privacy. One key lesson that I draw for these work streams is that a meaningful technological leap requires supportive policy framework. In other words, the private sector alone should not be responsible for driving technological progress. The public sector also has a vital role to play by creating the necessary legislation to provide legal certainty. The EU published the 2030 Digital Compass communication in February 2021. This is our roadmap for digitally transforming the EU economy and society by 2030. An important first milestone, the Digital Decade Policy Programme, enters into force in January 2023. For the first time, the EU will have a comprehensive digital governance structure. The goal is to ensure that member states monitor their digital progress while also advancing together on common digital targets. Member states will produce strategic roadmaps outlining their national trajectories and the actions they will take to achieve them. The first annual report on the state of the digital decade should be published in June 2023. We have strong financial and policy supports in place to drive this vital work. The Recovery and Resilience Fund, which is worth up to 723.8 billion euros, offers an unprecedented opportunity to accelerate Europe's digital transformation. So far, member states have mostly exceeded their 20% digital spending targets. In total, about 26% of the funding is spent on digital. This is a very welcome sign. Of course, the Recovery and Resilience Facility on its own will not be sufficient. It must be complemented by additional efforts from national governments and the private sector. This brings me to the second point for the success of 5G transformation: accessibility. This can be understood in terms of accessibility of infrastructure, digital skills, openness of technologies, but also accessibility to innovation, research, global ideas, and expertise. Today's event will tackle all these important topics in great detail. And rightly so, because this is the only way to ensure that true talent and value added are harnessed. This is the only way to ensure that states, regardless of geographical size, can grow into technological superpowers. On the other hand, we need to understand that accessibility has a very important social dimension. In today's world, technologies and data are a source of power, and as Yuval Harari put it, an artificial intelligence revolution may create irrelevant people. In this way, uneven or inequitable access to skills and technologies risks creating new forms of social inequality. To help prevent this from happening, the investments and reforms outlined in national recovery and resilience plans cover digital public services, digital skills, and digitalization of the businesses. Furthermore, the EU skills strategy has a heavy focus on digital skills. In the area of investment, member states often invest in very high capability broadband networks or in 5G deployment, as is the case in Latvia. Several measures also target advanced technologies such as semiconductors, cloud, and high-performance computing. In the Baltic region, one important project is a planned 5G via Baltica corridor. The three Baltic states, joined by Poland, are preparing large-scale deployment of 5G corridor along the E67 highway. Another project is a Connecting Europe Facility digital deployment project led by Telia and Latvia's mobile telephone. It is to start in early 2023. The project will include a 5G Baltic Sea ferry connection between the Nordic countries and the Baltic states. Such projects boost innovation and competitiveness on the countries involved. They attract private capital and not least talent. They create high value added for the economy and positive effects on other sectors and society at large. Because such projects are of systemic nature, they qualify as critical infrastructure. Therefore, strengthening security of 5G networks is of strategic importance. Our 5G networks should not become what Russian gas pipelines are today, a weapon of international economic and political blackmail. Nobody should have the capacity to plug them on or off. Over the last decade, the EU has adopted a wide range of digital and cybersecurity measures. They include the Directive on Security of Network and Information Systems, the EU Cybersecurity Strategy for 2020-2025, which proposes the adoption of the new Directive of Critical Entities Resilience, and the recently proposed new Cyber Resilience Act. When it comes to 5G networks, we created the EU toolbox together with our member states. This joint approach for the resilience of 5G networks is currently being implemented across the EU. To conclude, I would like to turn to the war in Ukraine. Today, Ukraine successfully fights the army of a much larger and more powerful adversary. The war is a story about values, courage, and leadership. But it's also a story about the importance of technologies and critical infrastructure. In large part, it's due to the fact that Russians are fighting with outdated methods and often using weapons dating from 1970s or 1980s. Meanwhile, Ukrainians are better organized, trained, and motivated. They show agility and have horizontal coordination. And crucially, Ukrainians use modern armaments technologies and take strategic decisions based on data. Internet, connected soldiers, drones, GPS-guided high-precision artillery systems and missiles, all these factors are ensuring Ukraine's superiority on the battlefield. In response, Russia is bombarding critical infrastructure and putting the lives of ordinary citizens at peril as winter approaches. Today, critical infrastructure is being destroyed by bombs. In the future, it will be subjected to sophisticated cyber warfare. The war in Ukraine demonstrates that the unthinkable is still possible. This is a guiding principle to follow when thinking about future of technologies. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dombrovskis. Thank you very much. So this reminds us, I guess, the situation we all have been into when you have your best performance online just to find out after half an hour that no one has heard that. And then you just repeat it again. And the most important part in this is that show must go on. And no matter what, it will. We are here to do that. So very briefly, after a few more opening speeches, we will begin the discussion panels, and you will be also part of them. But now, please welcome here in presence, Deputy Secretary General-elect of ITU, Tomas Lamanauskas. Welcome to stage.
Thank you very much, and really great honor to be here and continue this Baltic lineup. So after 2 Latvians, we'll now have opportunity to hear from Lithuania, so concentric circles are expanding. And it's really a big pleasure for me to be here, actually my first country visit after my elections in ITU, Deputy Secretary General-elect, so I think it's rather symbolic, thank you. And to visit the nearest neighbor, so to Lithuania, my country. And now I'm glad that I'm not, Prime Minister was mentioning how he's now looking for the second term in his office. So I'm still yet to start my first, but I think always happy to learn from the veterans of politics. We have, he already shared some tips with me today. So thank you very much first. And ITU is definitely great, is a proud partner of 5G Techritory. I was the one also raising my hand when you asked, have I been before? Sorry, I feel like a very timid hand there from me. But I've heard a lot, and I know that it's been going for 5 years, and it's been formed into what's now one of the leading events in Europe on 5G and mobile broadband. So really pleasure to be here. So setting the stage a little bit, at least taking that privilege of do that. So how do we do with 5G and mobile broadband in generally, and what are maybe some things to consider? And I've seen the rich program and agenda of this conference, quite a few topics I'll mention is actually covered in much more in depth later on. So first of all, we're doing pretty well. So if you look around the world, so not around, exact 228 operators in 92 countries have already launched 5G networks. 505 operators in 155 countries in total are investing in that. We're looking forward to have around 1 billion active 5G users around the world by the end of this year. So it's a really, really good progress, and ITU has been happy and very proud to contribute in various aspects. I'll talk a little bit later, but of course from standards to radio coordination to actually the right policy and regulatory environments. However, this morning in the meeting with Minister Talis Linkaits, he said a very good thing. It's not about how many base stations were built, but how we use the technology to the better of our people, And I think that's always important to remember. At the end of the day, is how we'll benefit everyone. So, and there are, and of course, when we talk about 5G and mobile broadband, we know a lot of users, and Prime Minister mentioned some, that will benefit us and can benefit us every day. And the whole, in the end we call it, and I'm pretty sure, I'm always mindful using United Nations terms, and sounding jargony, but I think Sustainable Development Agenda is something that we now all embraced, and mobile broadband and 5G is clearly recognized as a contributor to all the objectives of Sustainable Development Agenda. If we cannot tackle poverty, we cannot tackle hunger, we cannot address sustainability, and I'll talk about it a bit later, without the good digital connectivity. What are some things we need to think as we implement 5G and as we kind of go and make sure that it actually benefits all? First of all, one thing is who we have around the table. And I've been in this industry and regulating telecoms, for nearly 25 years now. And I remember in the beginning it was pretty simple who you call to the table. It was telecom operators, in the beginning government-owned, later private and government agencies. But now the industry structure is becoming so much more complex. We have third-party hosts. We have enterprise applications with the new integrators that develop 5G networks at enterprise level. We also need to always remember that we talk about broad ecosystem. You cannot have 5G without solid fiber networks, and that's you talk about much broader ecosystem of different players. You talk about investors. You talk about the very changing and diverse vendor ecosystem. Again, in the past we would speak about few, very established vendors. Now we have a lot, and I was very glad to hear from Prime Minister, about companies in Latvia that actually deploy 5G kit, and that also demonstrates it's not only about countries, even smaller countries, being users of the technology, but also being contributors and developers. But one thing also one thing is who would bring to the table, and I think this is good for these conferences like that. We'll have more people to bring to the table, and if you charge well, probably a good business model. But then the second thing is, who you will use that? And I think we still need to remember there's a lot of people don't have access to the digital world, including on a basic broadband, not only on 5G. We still have 2.7 billion people around the world unconnected, 94% of them in a low and middle income countries. So it's still, a lot of people who are not there with us. We have still challenges in connecting on a gender equality of connectivity. Still fewer women than men are connected, and regrettably that figure is even slipping rather than going up. So we're kind of a bit of a losing that treadmill race with the issue. Whether people or persons with disabilities, I think, are able to use the technology to the fullest extent. And we have still, but we have 1 billion people persons with disabilities around the world, 80% of them in developing countries. Actually, here I have to do the, marketing plug, and draw your attention that on the December 6th ITU will have a Accessible Europe ICT for All event, so you all welcome to join virtually, so also kind of learn about that a little bit more. It's also, again, coming back, it's not only about how many base stations are built. Only 11% of the people who don't use internet are not covered by mobile broadband. So everyone else, so 90% of the people who don't use are actually covered, but they don't use those the different reasons. So including for affordability purposes, reasons, or lack of content, lack of use. So it's also so when we speak about, again, infrastructure, about the 5G infrastructure is just one side. Third issue for me is sustainability. So meaning, how are we, with the deployment in technologies, are we doing better for our climate agenda, or are we doing worse? And think, are we helping the world to overcome this existential crisis? And this is now the topic across everything, and especially very fresh in our minds after COP27 just finishing in Egypt last week. So of course, we always, as an industry, like to say the fact that we help, and that's kind of the GSMA statistics, we help others 10 times more than we contribute to the carbon footprint ourselves as a mobile industry, which is great, but if you go to zero, every bit counts, and that's maybe not good enough. So how our industry is doing, and are there things to do to improve that? So first of all, and again, I'm still kind of transitioning from my campaign and to the job, so still using some references from there. So, so we did a study which showed that around 90% of the companies, telecom companies around the world actually acknowledge importance of sustainability in their reports. Regretfully, when we talk about the real action, is the math, it doesn't match the words always. So only 36 of companies worldwide subscribe to what is called science-based targets to achieve net zero. That means actually have a clear science-based plan to do. Here, the congratulations to you. Europe is doing about twice better, so it's also leading, and I think we do good, we need to do even better, but we can also use this as an example to the world. Another topic around sustainability is e-waste, are we contributing to another problem of things that harm our society and our world? So again, some of the headline figures are not great, so in 2019, there was around 54 million tons of e-waste around the world. It's expected to grow in 2030 to around 75 million tons. So, and the bigger problem is not only the growth of the e-waste. The bigger problem is also what we do with that. And currently, it's only 17% of e-waste is actually recycled and collected and recycled. Again, we can clap to ourselves. Europe does much better, it's around 42%. Again, I think that's one of the topics when we think from Europe, how we can not only do even better, but use it as an example going forward. The last thing, on this kind of current agenda to think is also resilience. Because we now have a lot of shocks, both natural and man-made to us, and I think the infrastructure is only as good as if it serves us in the worst of the times. And again, the situation is improving, it's not great. Like in ITU, we help countries with national emergency telecommunications plans. The current statistics is only 29% of the countries have national emergency telecommunications plans. So actually, we can do better. So some of the things to think as we go through and make sure that 5G is meaningful. Is everyone using, is everyone has an access to that? Are we contributing to the problem or contributing to the solution? And who are the stakeholders around the table? Looking forward, what are the further issues that are becoming important and interesting in the future debates, especially as we go to what we in ITU jargon call IMT 2030 and beyond, and normal people call it 6G technologies and others. So first of all, I think what's very important to think about that as not an isolated technology or not an isolated service. I already mentioned that you cannot have 5G without fiber networks. Well, in the future, I think we all know talking about how to mesh all the technologies together. Space, which is now a big topic, mobile broadband, fixed technologies to really work together. How we work through the verticals. In the past, we talked about connecting people. Now, increasingly, we talk about connecting things, about bringing the industry. So different verticals, like from automotive to health, education, how we service them. And again, great to see a lot of discussions here. And finally, integrated thinking about sustainability, how we integrate that through our all initiatives. So ITU, as I mentioned, ITU contributes through the different aspects from our sensitization work to our development work to our policy and regulatory work. But some of the things maybe to kind of mention here that's coming up, especially is, World Radio Conference 2023 next year is probably one of the most consequential events in the industry. Where actually the world comes together to agree how the spectrum is used, both terrestrial and space. And I think, looking forward to see a lot of you there and engaging in those debates, especially it will definitely set the ground for IMT 2030 and beyond for new space technologies. Of course, in our standards work, which everyone is welcome to engage, and when we talk about 5G, from the overall technological development to thinking of using how to use machine learning for 5G, fiber networks, but also what goes in networks, including video codecs. And finally, again, and here, how to make sure that everyone has the connectivity. And here, I want to kind of highlight our flagship initiative, Partner to Connect, which really was launched to bring all the stakeholders, industry, governments together to make sure that we do not leave everyone offline. So far, we have collected 541 pledges, totaling around $29 billion to really push the connectivity for all. Everyone is welcome to pledge and commit, and therefore everyone is welcome to December 8th annual meeting of Partner to Connect. So Really great to be here, really great to see here many faces physically, not only online. And looking forward to these days of the discussions, how we all make sure that we not only have a technology, not only have a technology that works for us, but a technology that works for everyone, that includes everyone, and in that way also contributes to solving our challenges of today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lamanauskas. Thank you. Well, just one more to go, and that will be done in the make sure it works way, which is video recording. Please welcome Acting Secretary General, Nordic Council of Ministers, Jonas Wendel. Video, please.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity to say a few opening words for this year's 5G Techritory. I would have enjoyed being in Riga, but the fact that my intervention is provided digitally is a telling illustration of the time that we live in and its possibilities. Digitalization affects and will continue to affect all parts and layers of our society, from the private sector to public life and the personal sphere. It is often described as disruptive, and we should not deny the fact that it can be. We need to frame it and tame it for it to be a force for good, to be transformative in a way that strengthens rather than weakens its positive sides. Digitalization is also a global phenomenon, but the way it is carried out and what it is used for differs and is a reflection of different societal models. Some models promote restrictions, centralization and control. Others competition, fragmentation and private initiatives. The Nordic and Baltic model has elements of all these, but most of all, it is value-based and it relies on trust. Mutual trust between people and authorities. Growth and efficiency are important in our model, but so is equity, preserving social cohesion, and to see digitalization not as an end in itself, but as a tool for other purposes. Ladies and gentlemen, the Nordic Prime Ministers have formulated a vision for the Nordic region to become the most sustainable and integrated region in the world by 2030. Digitalization and the rollout of 5G are crucial to obtaining these goals. We are striving for a twin transition of our societies, both digital and green. If properly governed, digital technologies can help to create a greener, more resource-efficient economy while improving the quality of life for our citizens. This twin transition is already ongoing, but we need to reinforce it and make sure it is both inclusive and just. Because while it is easy to be carried away by the possibilities provided by digitalization and 5G, we cannot overlook the dangers and downsides. Technology is neither good or bad in itself. It is how we use it that makes it so. We have seen and will continue to see how digital technologies can be distorted and used for corrupt practices. But the answer is not to be less dependent on technologies. It is not a real option. The answer is to strengthen the security, resilience, and reliability of our systems. If our societies are built on trust and are interlinked through digital technologies, then it is vital for us to be able to trust our systems. Let me also address two issues that are of particular relevance in the Nordic region, and that is geography and demography. We are living and working longer, and although urbanization is ongoing, a large proportion of our populations still live in sparsely populated areas. Here, digitalization offers opportunities for people to stay in a vivid and competitive countryside. Services such as digital healthcare, e-commerce, and remote work are already there, but they all depend on continued high-quality access to reliable networks. This is why 5G is an important tool to make our region not only greener, but also more interconnected and integrated. On a political level, we have to ensure that public investments in 5G are sufficient and that the networks are wide-covering and to the benefit of as many as possible. In the Ministerial Council for Digitalization, that includes all Nordic countries and the 3 Baltic states, we are cooperating closely to monitor the rollout of 5G in the region and to build interconnected networks that support a high mobility between our countries. In the ministerial declaration, Digital North 2.0, the priorities around Nordic-Baltic cooperation on 5G deployment focus on developing new testing facilities for 5G and on collaborating on policy coordination. And I would here like to highlight the Nordic-Baltic 5G monitoring tool as a concrete example of how we try to realize these objectives. It is a project founded by the Nordic Council of Ministers that started last year under the responsibility of Nordregio, our research center for regional development and planning, together with 5G experts from the Nordic and Baltic countries. The project builds a platform that showcases concrete examples of applications of 5G technology. It also provides knowledge sharing and the opportunities to make comparisons in and between countries. And it supports cross-border integration of data and standards that will initiate debates on tough issues, including on regulatory and legal challenges, pricing, and cybersecurity. As of today, the project has identified more than 160 examples of 5G service applications and testbeds across the Nordic and Baltic states. Sharing concrete examples of 5G applications is seen as especially important to convince the private sector about the business cases and to form strong partnerships. We are also hoping that mapping like this can shed light on possible gaps that need to be filled. If you're curious to learn more about our 5G monitoring tool, I encourage you to participate in our session on 5G applications in public services tomorrow at 2:30. Ladies and gentlemen, the Nordic-Baltic region is already among the most advanced digital regions in the world. It is crucial that we take advantage of this position and harness the full potential of 5G and digital technologies to accelerate the green transition and improved welfare for all. Furthermore, it will also provide us with a competitive advantage and reduce strategic dependencies. But for this to happen, we need to join forces, and 5G Techritory is a very important platform in this regard. So let me conclude by thanking Latvia for gathering this group of stakeholders each year, and I wish you all an inspiring 5G Techritory experience. Thank you.